Geoff Rickard is with us today, also from Isle of Man Post Office. General Manager Mail, that is. Rushed off your feet at this time of the year, I guess.
Good afternoon, Andy. Yeah, we're getting there. It's starting to build up now. It's taken a little while, but we've had 3 40-foot containers and an aircraft come in today, so there's plenty coming in.
So is that the aircraft that goes? Is it Castle Donington? Your aircraft?
No, East Midlands.
Yeah. So it comes in and out from there, and that's every day, morning and evening. Is that right?
We send it out Monday to Friday. It comes in Tuesday to Saturday.
Okay. So Isle of Man Post Mail. So what does your job? What's your responsibility?
Really, anything to do with letters, packets, parcels. It's delivery, it's collection of, it's dispatching to the UK. It's dealing with Royal Mail, Parcel Force, Yodel, DX, all the different agents that we work with.
Who's Yodel?
Yodel they've been around for quite a long time now. They're a delivery courier service operating in the UK, and they're operating over here as well.
It's Black Friday today, so a big day as well. You're probably expecting a bit of a rush next week then, presumably.
That's how it tends to work. The last few years, Black Friday has been a real peak. More recently, I think the internet retailers are trying to outdo each other by going slightly earlier. Amazon have been having Black Friday deals now for a couple of weeks, and we've started to see the growth in that. I had a look at the figures back for last year, and certainly we had 22,000 parcels the week after Black Friday. So yeah, it's starting to build up now. There's only 3.5 weeks left.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to remind you.
Thank you very much indeed. Is everything mechanised up at? Is it a Cool Road?
It's a Cool Road, yeah. But no, it's not mechanised. We mechanise letters. We sort letters. Everything else really is handled by hand.
So, do you know what load's coming in? I mean, do you have the same amount of people coping with whatever comes in, and they just
we have
stay
more
till it's
people at
finished?
Christmas.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody go on annual leave at Christmas when we bring casuals in. And we've got extra staff in this Christmas as well. So the people, we've got a great team there, and they all work really hard, and they know what's coming up, and it's well organised, but it is all handled by hand. The sorting's done by hand. We move cages around. It's not mechanised. We don't warrant the volumes to mechanise the operation.
How many parcels at sort of peak demand do you deal with?
I'm just having a look now. Normally, what was it last year? 120,000 we dealt with last Christmas, parcels, and 2.5 million letters.
My word. Are people posting fewer Christmas cards these days?
Yes, most definitely. We're seeing that. It's about half the volume that it was now.
Half?
Yeah, over the last 10 years, it's about half the volume.
But presumably, you've kind of been saved by the amount of parcels that people are sending and packets.
Yes, to an extent, to be fair. There were so many letters that losing half of that is a vast amount of revenue for the post office. Parcels are definitely growing, but that's a much more competitive market. There's a lot more people out there dealing with parcels.
I was going to say, obviously, there are couriers on the Isle of Man who are, independent couriers that handle the stuff themselves, and they've got different deals. Who does the deals then with people like Yodel? Is that done independently of the Isle of Man Post Office?
If we want to go for one of those deals for Yodel or DX or whatever, we have to tender. Yodel would issue a tender, and then we, together with anybody else, can go out there and try and win that work.
So how do you know how to price stuff like that? How do you know what's going to work?
Well, we know how much it costs us to deliver a letter or a parcel or whatever it is. We've got all of the costs in there: the staff costs, the vehicle costs, the uniform costs, national insurance, pensions, and so on. So we know how much it costs us. We've then got to decide a profit margin for that, and that then becomes the price that we'll go and bid for. But you've obviously got to remember that if it's a competitive market, you're not going to make an awful lot of profit on it.
How do you stand with this threat of a strike in Britain?
Well, we're watching carefully because I think the CWU, as you know, they appealed against the strike being overturned by Royal Mail.
Yes, they had a High Court injunction, didn't they?
That's right. So the appeal comes out today. I mean, if there is a strike in the UK and Royal Mail, and it affects Royal Mail, obviously the knock-on effect to us will be massive, because instead of having a fairly regular flow all the way through Christmas, we're going to suddenly get a whole load descend on us much closer to the date. We've looked at the dates, and the earliest, if there is a strike, and fingers crossed that there's not, The earliest would be around about the 14th of December that we think that they could achieve. So, but we're hoping that sense will prevail, and if the union gets their appeal, that everybody gets around the table and tries to sort this out. I mean, a year ago we were there ourselves.
I was going to say, at this time last year, crikey, what was that like?
It wasn't. It was very unpleasant, and it's taken a long time. We're still not back to where we were, really, in terms of the relationships between everybody.
I was going to say, aside of the fact that there's the business of the strike, it's a technical term, but the business of the strike, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
And you can be adversaries in an industrial dispute and yet still have to work, and then when it's resolved, have to work then as well. How do you repair that sort of relationship?
It's, to a great extent, it's time. I think over the last 12 months we've worked very hard with the unions, and they've been brilliant, to be fair to them. We've solved virtually all of the issues that we had a year ago. The last one is really in the process of being solved now. We've met weekly with the union to sort that out. I think it's talking is the biggest thing, really. It has taken time to make a change of this enormity, really.
Did you expect a strike last year?
I personally didn't. I thought that we'd find a way around it, and to be honest, it was heartbreaking when it happened. They're great people that we work with, and to see, I come from the UK. I spent 30 years with Royal Mail. I'm used to strikes there, and I know what damage they do. They're not used to it here, and I don't think anybody knew what the ramifications would be. And it is taking time to try and repair that.
And obviously, the Isle of Man, as you mentioned, doesn't have the throughput, the weight of numbers, doesn't have the critical mass to merit certain things. And so everyone knowing everybody, it's a small island, it's a relatively small business in terms of postal. So there are certain things that a small organisation just can't do. It can't offer, big benefits. It can't. There are certain things it can't do. So, and at one point, everybody, it was a point when people just thought, "What crikey, is the post office going to survive this?"
And I mean, I guess that's what the whole thing was about. It was about the long-term survival of the post office. We were loss-making all of a sudden. From our point of view, of course, we were separate from government in as much as we're self-regulated and self-funded, and we wanted to remain that way. We didn't want to become a government handout where each year we've got to go and ask for money to run the service. We were looking long-term, 5 years, to try and get ourselves back into profit, and with the way the costs were going at that stage, there was no way that we could see. Revenue was falling, costs were rising, and it just doesn't make a profit. So we had to get back to a level playing field, really.
So you were, but the business was staring down the barrel of a gun. A crunch was coming, wasn't it?
It was very difficult. It was a large amount of change in a small amount of time, and it was more change than the union could recommend to their members. But it was seen really from the management point of view as being absolutely necessary. And that's why it's so important, and that's why it's so gratifying now that we've all worked together and actually achieved all of the things. And we've achieved successes on both sides. We've found win-wins all the way through this year, which is it's such a much better position to be in now. I'm not saying that all of the relationships have been repaired, but certainly we're looking forward now rather than just infighting, really.
So if I can use a metaphor, last year you were looking at the rocks. This year you're looking out to sea and looking where you can take the business.
And that's where we needed to be. That's where we want to be. It's not going to be easy. I mean, there's no magic wand that's going to bring lots of new work in for us. So, we've still got the challenges ahead, but at least we're all pushing in the same direction there.
You must have seen 30 years in the UK, you must have seen phenomenal change in the UK as well.
Yeah. My father was there before me, my grandfather. So, over a period of time, I remember mountains of mail all over the floor in Birmingham Sorting office. And you looked at it and you thought, how the hell are we ever going to deliver that before Christmas? To be fair, it's a problem I'd like to have at the moment, really. But, it's going to be busy enough as we get through this Christmas.
Well, that mailbox is now the BBC, isn't it, in the centre of Birmingham?
It is, yeah. My old office is now the trousers department for Harvey Nicks.
Yes. That's where they relocated Pebble Mill to the mailbox down at next to the Holiday Inn, I think it is.
It is. I almost don't recognise Birmingham any longer. It doesn't look like.
As they say, it'll be a nice city when it's finished. Back to the Isle of Man anyway. The future for the post office. So you reckon everything is set fair for the future? I
think we've got loads of challenges ahead of us. Being a post office, we've got stamps and coins, we've got counters, we've got the printing that we do, and we've got the mail side of it. So that we've got a lot of facets that all of which have to be pointing in the right direction. And at the end of the day, whether we make a profit is dependent on all of those four elements.
Do you have much to do with the counters at all?
Not an awful lot, to be perfectly honest. I have my hands full rather with letters.
Lynn wants to. Well, you can't answer this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Lynn just said, how safe are the regional post offices? How safe are they really? Nothing to do with you, or do you have an opinion on that?
I have a personal opinion on it, but I would rather not represent Isle of Man. God, I'm going back 30 years. I'd rather not represent Isle of Man Post Office on that, if that's okay.
Obviously, they have challenges as well. They have, and this has all come about because of what? Because of couriers, because of independent people?
Like everything else, there's less work. I see less work on the mail side, and there's less work going through the counters at the same time. And that makes it more difficult for the sub-postmasters to make any money out of it, and they're obviously using their space, part of their space, their retail space, to run the post office. We've also got less work coming from government, such as pensions being paid into people's bank accounts. You can understand why, because of the cost of it. But at the same time, it all takes it out of the pot that helps pay for the post office.
Just take us through that then. Let's hope there is no strike in the UK, but if it does, it will be, what, the 14th of December?
I'm just guessing, but they've got to give 14 days notice. We're at the end of November now, so I would imagine that we're looking around about the 14th of December.
We wish you well. Geoff, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much indeed.
Good to talk to you. That's Geoff.